So what's up with the beef between State Senator Jeremy England and Governor Tate Reeves? There's a lot of infighting going on right now among the Mississippi supermajority. You've got Shad White, who's fighting Delbert Hosemann, Lynn Fitch, Senate panels, pretty much everybody on Twitter. House and Senate leaders are snarking back and forth at each other, and Governor Reeves, as always, is right there in the middle of the fray. But why is he mad at Republican State Senator Jeremy England? Well, it all comes down to a Senate bill that would allow Mississippi voters to vote up to 15 days early without having to have an official excuse. And it's a bill that's very popular among a lot of different groups. For example, it's supported by the Mississippi Federation of Republican Voters, the Mississippi League of Women Voters, the National Republican Party, and by most people who work a 9-to-5 job, or those with young kids, or that work night shifts, or just have trouble getting to the polls. And it's not a red state versus a blue state thing. Mississippi is one of only 3 states that currently doesn't have an early voting program. In fact, promoting this type of early voting was a major strategy of the GOP this year through a program that they called Bank Your Vote. But Reeves personally is very much against the idea, and he has attacked Jeremy England just about every way possible. He's called him a rhino, he's called him the MVP of the Mississippi Democratic Party, and he's basically insulted and mocked him all up and down social media. And it's a strategy that we have seen from Reeves before. Typically, whenever there's a proposal that Republicans and Democrats are working together on, he'll post or tweet something to try to torpedo those efforts, like he did with school funding a few years back. And that strategy is no different now that people are working across the aisle to get early voting. He's even gone so far as to post things like this, insinuating that just talking to a Democrat is somehow a damning indictment. Or maybe it's talking to a black Mississippian. Could be both. England, for his part, has been responding, but he has done what he can to try to at least make it civil. He's reminded Reeves on a few occasions that he does consider him a friend. He's asked him to show a little bit more respect and overall just not to be a bully, especially on the public forum. He points out that a lot of Mississippians support this idea of early voting, and he reminds Reeves that these are the voters that they're supposed to be representing. So why exactly does Reeves hate this bill so much? Well, the idea isn't completely clear. Reeves claims that it would somehow compromise the integrity of the vote, that we would see cheating come from it. But England points out that they're doing this in 47 other states, and they haven't seen that problem. He also points out that it would make election night itself run smoother, that we would get results faster, and folks over 65 wouldn't have to stand in long lines. My personal take on this is that Reeves sees this bill as a threat to him personally. Maybe this means that he is planning a Senate run after his term as governor ends. Reeves has to be aware that he is one of the least popular leaders, not just in Mississippi, but nationally. And any sort of disadvantage that he could face could prevent him from reaching his next goal. But just like with Medicaid expansion, school funding, providing summer meals for children, and any sort of funding for the city of Jackson, this appears to be one of those personal opinions that Reeves holds and just refuses to let go of, despite the majority of Mississippians disagreeing with it. And this sort of take when it comes to voting has always confused me, because to me personally, it seems like rather than try to limit folks from voting, you should just try to be a better candidate. I mean, if the only way that you can win is by limiting how many people can vote, that doesn't make you the better candidate. In fact, it makes you a threat to democracy. Now, it is worth mentioning that Governor Reeves might not be the person actually writing these posts. It may very well be somebody from his communications staff. It's all public, it has his stamp of approval, and it does reflect his opinions, but there's a good chance that he's not actually physically writing them. For example, back when he was debating Brandon Presley on live television back in 2023, he was also at the same time somehow tweeting as himself. So yeah, there's a pretty good chance that there's often somebody else holding the phone. But that isn't an excuse. In fact, if anything, it seems kind of threatening that there's a non-elected member of his staff impersonating the governor on social media. And if I were in charge over there, I'd probably be having a long talk with them about being a little more adult. But whoever the keyboard warrior is over in the governor's office, I think we can all agree that it is not a good look for the state. As Republican Joel Carter said, this isn't a playground, we're supposed to be adults. And I'll just add to that, we really do need to stop treating politics like it's a zero-sum game. It's not a winner and a loser situation. Oftentimes the best proposals and the best plans come from compromise, from considering multiple different perspectives, from actually listening to the voters. Having bipartisan support for something doesn't mean that it's a bad bill. On the contrary, it probably means it's one of the better ones out there. We have got to reach a point where we can see differences of opinions as that, differences of opinions and not declarations of war. And as far as Senator England goes, keep up the good work. I appreciate what you're doing, and I marvel at your patience.